So far, so good. Only halfway through.
This is the low point of the day. Getting to see it.
Low point of the day. High point. It's a high point, isn't it?
High point of your day.
High point of my day, seeing you.
On, Coach. You can be honest.
Yeah.
He's live.
All right. Well, we'll get started. Talk a little bit about Ohio State weekend. Certainly nice to put back-to-back wins together. Thought the games were a little bit different each night, and I won't spend a bunch of time getting into them. I didn't think we played all that great of a game on Saturday night, but we played well enough to win, which I think is an important thing and an important trait to have in a team. Two great crowds, good atmosphere, great buzz in the building. I think the players found that real inspiring, and I like probably more than anything is our team's approach coming off the previous weekend. Our team's approach to trying to find a way to get 2 wins, particularly at home, and we found a way to do that. So that's all good. Now we had to put that behind us. I told them we weren't going to sit there and enjoy winning too much. We're going to start looking ahead. There's only so many weeks left in our season, and obviously the next 2 weeks we play single games, so we're going to get focused on that, and we started that, I'd say, fairly immediately after the game. And I had a good practice yesterday. I think obviously the rivalry game is always a big game with lots of focus. Their team happens to be playing probably as well as their team has played, and certainly for this season they're hitting their stride, and maybe you could argue the last couple seasons. They've got a lot of depth up front. They're scoring at an incredible pace right now, and so we've got to make sure we do lots in our defensive game to deal with that. It's not like there's one line going. They've got a lot of depth up front, and that'll be a lot to contend with. So we had a good practice yesterday. It was just more of a get back into it skate. We had Sunday off, and we'll get into it deep today through Thursday, and we'll travel down for the game on Friday.
Now
Fred?
you're resigned to the fact that you can't outscore Michigan. You're going to have to stop them, right?
Oh, our history is not going to show, and this year's team can get into a wide open type of game where we haven't won a 7-6 game in an awful long time. So I think our highest scoring game was probably that 6-3 game against Clarkson, 6-4 off the top of my head. But we know their offense is what dictates their team. And right now I think they lead the country offensively. And more than leading the country, I think, is when you're playing with confidence, that helps you because you feel that regardless of where you're at, they were playing Wisconsin, they were down. And they came back to win. So it's a mindset as much as anything. So for us, for our team to be a good team, regardless of who we play, we have to be a good defensive team. Starts in goal, and then our commitment to playing good defense really helps stimulate our ability to create offense. Scoring's a whole different matter, but creating offense, creating scoring chances come from playing good defense. And so it will be a matchup in that regard of trying to minimize their effectiveness offensively for sure.
Kind of alluded to where I was going to go with that, with the defensive side of the puck for you guys. Beyond Hildebrand, what has been going on with the 6 or 7 guys you've been playing? Obviously, playing 7 last weekend, what benefits did you see of that?
Well, I think we're getting guys experience, which is always a benefit. I think that we've got depth. If one guy's playing better than another, we can play that guy a little bit more, and give him more minutes. As I told you before, one of the reasons we were doing it is we had some guys that were kind of nursing some injuries or coming off injuries, and it gave us greater flexibility. So I think, from a defenseman standpoint, we've benefited in that regard, and we've done that a fair bit, really, since I think that second Minnesota game in early December, if I recall correctly. In addition to that, though, it's not just your goalie playing good defense and stopping pucks. It's not just your defenseman playing well defensively. It's a whole team commitment, having to make sure guys are all pitching in, coming back, being strong in the neutral zone, possessing the puck, making good decisions with the puck. I didn't think, especially Saturday night early in that game, I thought we made poor decisions in the neutral zone, and it created a lot of turnovers. And so while that's not allowing your offense to evolve and go create chances, it puts more stress on you defensively. And we can't do that. We have to be better at that.
Coach, I'm in town now working on a story about college hockey players in class. And is this, it seems to be happening more and more, especially with Canadian players and Europeans, that they're coming over, taking advantage of, the classroom and being on campus, even if they're not going on to the NHL. Is this kind of an underappreciated part of the sport, given your experience as an administrator and a coach?
I would say that not necessarily Canadians. Canadians have been playing college hockey for lots and lots and lots of years, and they're very well of the benefits of playing in the NCAA today, probably more so than ever before. But I do think you're starting to see while it's not a big explosion in numbers, I think it's a slowly growing number of Europeans that it's catching their attention, because there are more Europeans coming over to play in North America before college in junior hockey systems that allow you to be eligible for college and some that don't. And so I think there's a little bit more exposure in that regard. A lot of the players who are Europeans who are playing in the NCAA have oftentimes been identified while they're playing here in North America, more so than over there. And I think as that continues to grow, because one of the challenges is a lot of those kids get contaminated playing in their elite system in Europe. And as they learn more of the rules, much like Canadians over the last probably 2.5 decades, maybe they'll look at the U.S. system or the NCAA system as one that is real beneficial to combine academic pursuits with your athletic pursuits.
Coach, seeing as Michigan has been pretty much running over the Big Ten and really putting themselves above the pack, how important is this weekend for Michigan State to make a statement and really kind of establish themselves as a legitimate threat in the Big Ten race?
Well, I think we're doing that every week, regardless of who our opponent is. We have to get better every week. We have to show ourselves that we can compete at the very highest level against whatever opponent we play. So it just happens to be Michigan this week, and they happen to be playing probably as well as they've played all season for sure, and maybe in the last couple years. And so for us, we have to keep pushing to get better. We have to keep pushing to get towards the top of the Big Ten race and stay up there and find a way to keep ourselves there. And part of it is our mindset. Part of it is not getting satisfied so early. Part of it is maturing. Part of it is having high expectations, and part of it is the commitment to prepare to put yourself in that spot. And so it's just it's an important opponent to us, but in that regard specifically, it's just another opponent, because if next week or the week after we play Michigan again, it's Penn State, and then it's Wisconsin, and we have to do it each and every week to get ourselves there on a regular basis to compete at the top of the Big Ten. And we haven't demonstrated that yet, and that's where we have to get.
Now, when the season started, one of the storylines in the Big Ten was the Stern goaltending. Everybody seemed to have a great goalie. Now, suddenly, it's a little bit more offensive-minded in the league and all that. However, Jake Hildebrand has been playing great lately, and one of your players on Saturday mentioned to me that he thought that Jake was the best goalie in the Big Ten right now. Do you think that's the case, and what has he done in the last month to put himself at this level?
He may very well be the best goalie in the Big Ten right now. I haven't really seen a lot of Minnesota, and I think a lot of that goalie, but I think Jake is right there, and I think he's playing right now. I think he's playing as well as he's played since he's been here. I didn't think his first half of the season on a consistency basis was at the standard that he has established. I thought there were some games that dipped below his potential, but not too many, but there were a couple, and I think he would agree with that. And yet, since our break, I think he's been right on. He's been practicing really well. He's really tracking the puck. He knows he's going to play. He wants to really own the net. He gives our team confidence, and I think right now he's probably playing with as much confidence as he's ever had. So I would put him right there as the best, or certainly one of the best in the Big Ten at this stage of the season.
Tom, you saw how your team responded to adversity because you weren't very happy with that second game at Penn State. Are you really anxious now to see how they respond to success after a pretty good weekend?
But very much so, very much so. Because again, I not to take anything away from Ohio State by any means, no disrespect in this comment, but I didn't think we played all that special. We got 2 wins, and that's the most important thing. There's been some games, I told our team, there's been some games we played really well and didn't get a good result, and that doesn't feel very good either. But I think that to continue to elevate our game, we have to be better. We have to keep getting better. We have to keep finding ways to execute better, to finish better. We've been defending pretty well. We've been playing with good discipline, but we've got to continue to grow our game. So in that regard, another week is another new test, and you're coming off now a series where you win 2 games. To stay in the hunt for one of those top 2 spots in our league, these are really important points, and every point's going to be important. And so coming off a little bit of a success, we'll have to see how we respond, and I hope we respond in the right way to handle that a little bit, not be real satisfied, and strive for more.
Going back to the game in the GLI that you guys played against Michigan, what have you seen on tape different about them that's allowed them to go from 2 goals in that game to 7, 8, 10 in the last, since they played you guys?
Well, they didn't have 4 players in that game that they have now, and those 4 players are all of them are very good, dynamic offensive players, and they're young, but they're very skilled players. And if you look at their numbers, they add to their depth in a big way. So that was a missing element for that team. That particular weekend was struggling to score goals, and yet in our game, key players scored for them that are go-to guys for them, and that's what you need. You need your best players to step up in time of need or in big games, and so they've just added to that depth.
That said, how do you prepare your guys after facing them without 4 players to be ready for them?
Well, we know, we're going to know that the bread and butter of our game is playing well and being hard to play against defensively in particular. Offensively, we just have to keep working to get better, to get to the scoring areas, to continue to create scoring chances. And we're going to obviously be very aware of the depth of their team, that they can throw 3 very good, deep offensive lines at you, that we're going to have to be ready for that test. So you can't key on one guy, you can't key on one line. You got to be very, very aware of all 3 of those lines in particular, and not to diminish their 4th line, but those 3 lines in particular are producing a lot of offense. And Werenski's really contributed since he's been back from the World Juniors too offensively, so you got to be aware of him back there. So there's just a lot of depth on their team this year, and our guys will be very aware of it, and it'll all come down to how hard we compete.
Talk a little bit about the offense on your side. I mean, you got some depth finally starting to come about with your lines and getting some scoring from some of the deeper lines on your team as well.
It is nice to see a few guys emerge, and I think our challenge as a team now is to get 2 or 3 lines all going at the same time. And if we could do that, we could become, in my opinion, a pretty darn good team. And so it's nice to see Ryan Keller getting rewarded a little bit, building a little bit of confidence. It's nice to see Brent Darnell putting a little bit of a streak together. Probably playing with as much confidence right now as he's played since he's been here. So that's a good thing. Obviously, Barry was back, and the Ferentino line. If we can get both of those lines going to be productive for us offensively, we can create some depth of our own too. So at times, all 3 of those lines have scored in different ways. Now it's really a matter of, okay, can we step up on a more consistent basis with all 3 of them in particular?
Coach, it seems like a kind of marquee Michigan State type game, an underdog Michigan State defensive-minded team going up against a high-octane, high-offense team. Do you take any comfort in the fact that it's basically going to be your defense, which has been playing extremely well, against their offense, fact that Michigan allows 3 goals per game when you guys usually score 3 goals per game, odds are you win.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I haven't ever found yet in this role that I'm ever all that comfortable, regardless of who we're playing, and so you go in with the mindset that you want to be ready to play. You want to compete, as intensely as you can, and you play to your strengths. And I think we'll do that. They're a team of momentum. When they score, they seem to score in bunches. And history has shown that, not just with this team, but with previous teams. And so, you've got to be able to weather those moments as well. And for us, again, we're spending as much time or even more time in trying to improve our offensive productivity, because I think as we can do that, you're right, that magic number seems to be 3 for us. But that's not going to happen all the time, and it doesn't. And even Ohio State, they were giving up. I can't remember their number, but they're in the lower third of the country right now. And we didn't score 3 on Saturday night, but found a way to win. And so we have to be good defensively to give ourselves a chance to win in every game, and we know that's a main focal point. But as we continue to evolve offensively, I think our margin for error will be greater. And I'd like to get to the point where we too are winning games based on our offensive productivity as much as our defensive commitment.
Coach, you talked about how you didn't think you guys played great on Saturday. What about the game didn't you like from your standpoint, and what do you have to correct in terms of the guys? What do they have to correct going into the game Friday night?
I would say it was execution in areas. Let me start with saying that I thought there were areas of the game we played pretty well. We defended pretty well. I thought we played with good discipline. I know we got a power play goal late on that 5-on-3, but that was positive. Our penalty kill was really good all weekend, and it was pretty good that night as well when called upon. On the other side, I thought we turned the puck over way too much in the neutral zone. And they were playing kind of system that forced that if you tried to force plays into that. And I didn't think our decision making was all that good. So our puck movement wasn't to the level that I think it can be. Our decision making and managing the puck, especially in the neutral zone, was not positive. And I even in our offensive zone play, I didn't think we hit open guys to the same level that we're capable of doing. So I thought, again, I don't want to dwell on the negative, but I think we're capable of more. The good news is we found a way to win without playing our best game, and I think that's a positive thing.
Realizing all coaches want to take it one game at a time. The next 3 weekends, you play 4 games against 2 teams ahead. Is it overstating it to say that these 4 games can make you or break your season?
I think they can make or break whether we can keep ourselves in the race for the top of the league, because you have to beat teams that are ahead of you, especially if they either have games on you or your games kind of match up. And so I think both of those teams right now have played a similar number of games to us in the Big Ten. So those head-to-head games are important. That's why I thought it was important, with Ohio State, and it's frustrating to not get a win out of Penn State, because they are ahead of us 2 weeks ago. So, yes, Fred, I think those are really important games for us because they are ahead of us in the standings as we sit today.
Going back to strength versus strength, breaking it down into special teams, your penalty kill versus their power play. Right now, their power play is working at a pretty good clip. Kind of break that matchup down a little bit. And also, on your power play, you guys have been able to score a little bit more. I think 3 straight games with power play goals. Why do you feel that the power play unit has been able to put some points up?
Well, first of all, when you talk about theirs is very dangerous because they have a lot of options that they can go to. So it's very difficult to key off of one thing. And it was much like Minnesota's, and you saw what trouble we had in dealing with Minnesota's power play. In fact, if it wasn't for Minnesota's power play, I think we'd only give up, 4 or 5 goals to this point all season, when we were shorthanded. So I hope we can find a way to do a better job than we did back then. But they have a very good two very good power play units that move the puck around pretty well with multiple options, which makes it hard to defend. As far as our power play is concerned, I think one of the things that's helping us a little bit is, for the most part, we've kind of settled on the parts, which early in the season, between moving lines, changing personnel, trying to find the right pieces, our power play by no means is anywhere where we want it to be, but it's improved, both in our ability to possess the puck, our ability to create good scoring chances, and now we're starting to see a few goals go in, which we'd like to see the frequency of that go up. But we're getting good looks, we're getting good shots. I think guys are getting more comfortable in their roles on both units. And, you know, in the last few games, I think we've won special teams, which is an important part of the game today, especially when you get in close scoring games. So although we got beat in every category, I would say a couple weeks ago, Saturday night at Penn State, we did win the special teams, both power play and penalty kill, and we did the same with Ohio State. So that's a good trend, and I'd like to see that continue.
Brett Darnell said after the win on Saturday that he thinks this could be the turning point for this team for the season. So do you think that has more to do with execution on the ice or how they're approaching the game off the ice? Are you getting the same sense?
Yeah, I would say I think it's both. I think, you know, for us to continue to elevate our game, our execution has to be better. We have to be able to make more plays. We have to make more plays under pressure. We have to be able to finish. That Friday night game, we had 3 open nets in the first period. Should have been 3-0. We come out at the period 0-0. You know, those are execution things. And like I said, I think our game has continued to elevate over the past 3 years, going from a super inexperienced team to a somewhat inexperienced team to a team that has a little bit of experience now. And yet, you know, our execution has to get better for us to score more goals. And so I'm looking for both that and then the mindset for sure. The mindset of not ever being satisfied, not ever getting comfortable, always pushing yourself to strive to do more, to have more success. If you are successful, how do you have even more success? And so we're not there yet, and we need the combination of those two things to continue to elevate ourselves to a much higher level to compete for our conference championship. But it's moving in that direction. That part I'm comfortable with. I know it's moving in that direction. Just want it to move faster.
Under old news, have you seen the 2 hits on Ferentino yet? I know you hadn't seen the second one.
I have. Yeah, I have. I thought both were obviously dangerous hits. We don't want them in the game. I saw that the one player for the first hit was suspended for a game, which to me is appropriate. That was a very dangerous hit, I thought. Very dangerous. The second hit didn't receive a suspension. The officials awarded that player a game misconduct, and those are the kinds of things that you can debate. I thought, you know, that was my view of that hit is that player was approaching, and the onus, as our rules are, is the onus is on the player. So even though Michael turned at the last minute and kind of subjected himself to a greater hit maybe by doing that, the onus is still on the player that's delivering the blow. And, you know, those are dangerous into the boards. And whether your head hits the boards or you just hit from behind, those are dangerous hits. We want them out of the game. We got to clean them up, you know. The other one, to me, was kind of a scary hit. Head down, blindsided, head snapped back. So, you know, whether it's appropriate or not, you know, I would say that I thought the league took the right actions, you know, to penalize the hit.
Speaking of those hits, how is Ferentino doing? Has been showing any concussion medicine?
No, he's been fine. I was texting him late that night, actually, and he said he felt fine. I know it dinged him pretty good. The first one more so than the second one. I think the second one just kind of frustrated him, like, what's going on here? You know, and it was kind of unusual because the game wasn't like that at all. It wasn't an overly physical game. It wasn't a dirty game. All of a sudden, these two circumstances just popped up, and the game was not won. You know, it wasn't like the game was in hand. It was a 1-goal game at that time. So, their team's not a dirty team. It's a physical sport, and sometimes those things happen.
Also, what is the mentality in this locker room right now, coming off those wins, going into the big rivalry week?
Well, I only saw him yesterday, and I thought we had a good practice, and we'll see today. I'm measuring it day to day, but you know, I'm hopeful that it's very business-like, it's very focused, and you know, if you can't be motivated to play in this series with, you know, important points on the line on that stage, you don't have a heart beating, you know. So I'm not worried about being motivated to play. I'm more concerned about being focused to play, because sometimes you can be too hyped up, and I remember as a player myself, you get in that situation where you're too hyped up, it almost tires you out, you know. So the focus to detail is what's important to me, because you can't execute at a high level if you don't have very sharp focus, and that's where we're trying to spend our time during the course of the week, and that's how we'll be evaluating where our team is by the end of the week.